I call the Wednesday, July 12th, 2023 meeting of the Trees and Greenery Committee to order. We should probably introduce ourselves around the table again, starting with Pat.
Yes, good morning, Pat Bagley.
Dennis Sudo.
Assistant Mayor Joanna Kelly. Deb Shag.
Peter Lachlan.
Dick Adams.
AJ Dupree.
Michael Griffin.
Max Wader.
Peter Rice.
Thank you all. We have the minutes of the June 14th meeting. Any comments, questions, corrections? Guess we'll accept them as is then. Thank you. Tree removal request 5 Ruth Street.
Yeah, so I met the homeowner out in his backyard and he had some concerns about these. So technically I would call it 2 trees, but it's a multi-stem cherry and then another single black cherry right in his backyard bordering a unmaintained lot that the city owns. So technically city property, city trees. And we've responded to that area in the past and these trees have just been declining over a bit of a period. So yeah, my preference is to just remove them. Some of them have some structural issues and I don't think it will detract from that area, just considering what's behind the home. And ultimately, I think the homeowner will feel much safer with those trees gone too. So
How are you gonna get out back and do it?
excellent question. Yeah, so we've had conversations with the homeowner and we're not entirely sure yet, but the 2 options are ultimately finding a way to get through that wood lot with the bucket truck and doing it that way. But the homeowner has expressed that he would be generally okay with matting our bucket truck in and just working off mats. But that's once the grass kind of withers out and it's really dry. So we're really looking to do that closer to the middle or end of August at this point.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? A motion to recommend removal?
I'll make that motion.
No, second.
Seconded by Pat. Any discussion? All in favor?
Who determined that those trees are on city property?
I looked online, just cross-reference with,
They're 20 feet
That's the
from his
drainage
house.
easement
Yeah.
right through there.
is it a drainage easement?
I
Okay,
believe that's the case.
gotcha.
Okay,
Are there many lots like that the city owns or through the town? I
Yes.
was kind of, I was a little surprised.
Now, we have a lot of lots throughout the city that have city right of ways and responsibilities for drainage and things like that. Sewer lines, so. They have not been always maintained. So it's not always apparent that
Uh-huh.
there is a utility that runs through that area, but
And so that's why the city holds on to it for utilities and.
there's a drainage, I believe if this is the section right behind Route 5, there's
Right.
a drainage line that outlets to the.
Was that it?
okay.
My understanding.
The George's Terrace
Oh.
Island.
We didn't vote. We didn't vote.
No.
We stopped for discussion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
It passes then. George's Terrace Island.
Yeah, pretty straightforward removal. Good portion of the center has started to decline in this maple, right under a power line. So kind of an odd place for it anyway, but it's a Norway, so it probably cropped up on its own. Yeah, I did make a note that we are planting that area pretty intensely next spring. So this is just another great opportunity to get something else in there.
The sidewalk project is moving. right
Yeah.
along.
Impressive.
Yeah, and from my understanding, all of those loops aren't receiving sidewalks. They've all been removed. So everything, and of course, we all sat through all of those meetings as well, but yeah, this should be pretty straightforward here on out, at least for George's Terrace and getting more trees in that island.
I went out this morning to take a look at that tree and the crew was there and Dave pulled up, Dave DeFoss. So I got out because I really went out the tree. I could see in Google Maps. It was pretty awful, but I wanted to see what the project looked like because I was one of the persons that voted against the removals. And I wanted to share with him that I was really happy to see how the project's moved along. It looks really good. I stopped short of I was wrong, you were right. But- He thought so. But it was a good learning curve for me being on this committee and the balance between removals of trees and development. And it was a lot of trees, but it looks good. And I know that some of the gaps will be, you'll put some good trees in there and it'll be
Yeah.
good. So.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that project and then also the skate park project. Those are kind of the things that are, we do look forward to tree planting in the spring, but especially so when we can really make some substantial changes and do some really good work for either a single park like the skate park or an entire community. So it's going to be really fulfilling, I think, for myself and the crew.
Yeah, good. So I vote to I'll put a
Yeah.
motion.
Make a motion to.
To remove that tree.
Okay,
Second.
seconded by Dennis. Any discussion? All in
I
favor?
think Eric Anderson would like to give you some input.
That is actually the person who wrote me an email and we had talked about pruning other trees in George's Terrace. But yes, I'm in direct contact with him. But
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. City Hall Community Garden Tree.
yeah, so that's right back here. One of the homeowners who is utilizing that space as a community garden requests that it be removed. It obviously is impacting those raised garden beds and sort of everything else. And there, when I went to post the tree there, I discovered a little bit of a wound that goes from the base of the tree up into the canopy, and it's declining a little bit. So it's a Norway, so it's really all signs are pointing toward removal.
It's leaning.
And it's got a little bit of a lean toward the private property and the fence there. So,
And there seems to be a little dieback on the left-hand side
Yeah,
already.
and I believe that's related to that wound that I discovered when I went to post the tree.
Mhm.
It's all related.
Did the owner on the other side of the fence have any, that seems to be pretty critical, giving that owner shade in there. To that.
So the individual that I spoke with, and I didn't do any sort of discovery on it, but I believe the neighbor was in agreement that the tree should go. So my assumption is that if someone would have something to say about keeping it, they hopefully would have likely shown up here, but I believe those neighbors that border that area all partake in the community garden.
That's correct.
Okay.
So that's a neighborhood community garden.
Mhm.
Again, another wonderful opportunity to find nooks and crannies in Portsmouth
Yeah,
that this
that's
committee
cool.
provides for me. I really, Dennis and I were talking about that.
I don't understand how anything could grow in there.
That's I think that's for them to figure out, I suppose,
It's
but
the learning
yeah.
curve of gardening.
Out of asphalt, right?
It actually, they do get, quite a bit of vegetables out of it and some flowers and.
Yeah, there were
It's
blooming
actually more
zucchini.
sunlight in there than you would expect.
Yeah, it seemed that the boiler room provided more shade than the tree.
You'd think. Yeah, I was a little dubious when they proposed it. I'm like, really? This,
Yeah, right.
what do you put outside in there?
Okay, do we have a motion to recommend removal?
So I'll make the motion.
Joanna? Dennis second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, update on the tree planting for the city's 400th.
At this point, we're just continuing on watering. We are receiving 2 trailers to mount our new compact watering tanks onto, and that will help us. So when we're watering currently, it takes about 1.5 days to get all 300. So last year's and then this year's plantings. Now with these 2 trailers, it's going to afford us just 1 day. Our crew goes out, we water everything, and we're done. So it'll be really nice to free up some time with the inclusion of those trailers. And at least as far as I've seen, it's really just some Zelkova and some oak leaf mountain ash that are declining. They're either completely dead already, or the oak leaf mountain ash, and you can probably see it around town. It's like the center leader is dead, but it's sort of tufting out underneath where it's still alive. We'll see how those go, but yeah, that's really it for mortality of our saplings this year. And plus all the rain that we've had has been very helpful to us.
Has that been helpful?
Yeah, I think we're doing much better this time, at this time this year than we were last year. I think we had already started watering first week in June. So yeah, we're doing pretty
That's
good.
great.
What's that?
I said, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think the rain has helped.
Yeah,
I don't know if this is the right time to ask the question, but there are 2 trees on State Street that have not leafed out, and they're right across from South Church. And
Okay.
so at the corner of Church Street, that
okay,
runs behind the Custom House. There's a parking lot it's the private parking lot. And so when you're coming through Church and you have to stop at State to see if the traffic's coming, I'm always trying to see around the tree trunk
sure,
and the signs. It's not
Okay.
really safe, but
sure.
I noticed that the tree hadn't leafed out. And then the one on the other side of the driveway is also same condition.
Gotcha.
Those may be private.
That's
trees
what I.
associated
I was
with
trying to-
properties,
yeah, I
so
was
we
trying to
should-
think.
we
I'm
should
not-
find-
I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, I'll do some investigating and check
Okay.
it out. And if it is a public works planting, unless it's so obviously dead, we typically just remove those as we discover them. But if there's still some, after a little bend test or a scratch test, if there's still something in there that we think is relatively viable, we'll try and leave it for as long as we can, typically until next year's
Okay,
tree planting season.
thanks.
But if it is a private tree, we will.
Right, yeah, sorry.
We'll put them on notice that,
Okay.
Is that how you do it, Peter?
what's that?
You put them on note? What kind of influence do we have?
It
for
depends
you?
on the way the site approval was done. Sometimes there are specific requirements that in perpetuity, they have to have the trees as part of their
Right.
approval. So if they lose a tree, like sometimes I'll go in and we don't like it anymore, we cut the tree down. So, well, that was your approval, you have to put the tree back or you have to get it modified.
Mhm.
Well, I'm still seeing trees that get planted by the city this year as part of the program and in another different locations. And it's every time I see another one, I say, well, that's great. It's really,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm particularly proud of, there are 2 Osage orange trees, one that we planted a couple years ago now, and then one planted last year down on Fleet and Congress.
Oh.
And it's like just exploded.
Hmm.
Despite having some minor crown dieback, it's really taken off. If you're ever in the neighborhood, I would go check that one out. And I think I previously mentioned the one on Middle and Aldrich. That's another Osage orange, and it's just doing really, really well. So,
So they're a good urban tree.
yeah, and I mean, so we hadn't, at least from my recollection, there hadn't been many planted previous to these past couple. And so it's just been this little bit of an experiment, but yeah, they've done really well. And unfortunately, we couldn't buy any from Schichtel's for this past spring because I really wanted to buy some more, and they just had ran out. So I think the secret's out, and many other municipalities are snatching them up before us.
Because they're
So-
interesting.
What's that?
They're interesting looking.
Yeah,
The fruit's cool.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
cool.
I believe we got the fruitless variety,
Yeah.
mercifully for the city. So
Uh-huh.
I did an AmeriCorps project. This is a bit of an anecdote, but I lived in Missouri, and they were just dropping these literally like hand-sized fruits, and we just started chucking them into the frozen lake. So anyway,
Sure.
Wow.
that was my first, and they're pretty sure the native varieties are thorny, right?
Yeah,
And,
Concord's got a bunch from, and they have fruit on them,
Yeah.
come down and whack you. So the size of a grapefruit.
Yeah.
But essentially, the outside of the fruit, looks, like a sort of a movie version of your brain. It's all sort of, it's sort of a wormy, rough out
Yeah.
exterior to the outside of it.
Brain.
Sorry, what was that?
I said, maybe your brain.
Yeah. But it's what you see on like horror movies or whatever,
Yeah.
so the outside of it is, very unique and distinct, but it's a heavy fruit.
Yeah.
It'll clunk people in cars.
So anyway, I like.
Does it
I
have
like them.
fragrance? And throughout its,
I don't know.
Season?
I've
No,
never
okay.
smelled the one up in,
hmm,
there's some big ones in Concord. They're, 2 feet in diameter.
Oh, wow.
oh. Cool. All right.
Peter, I just wanted to mention that the difference between tree planting now and when I first joined the committee, it's like night and day difference, and you guys deserve all the credit in the world for that. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, we've been very fortunate to have some good hires and
Mhm.
Max and his crew are doing great, so.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And in every way, in terms of
Yeah,
variety, the passion about the planting, the care after the planted.
success and.
every
Stewardship.
aspect of it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is my favorite time of year, honestly. It's one of my favorite parts of the job.
And we might as well get interesting trees if we're planting trees,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, yeah, variety is the spice of life,
Yeah,
especially in an urban canopy. So,
great. Okay.
Okay, fourth thing on the agenda, William Whipple House chestnut seedlings, and Dick had sent me something on that, and then I got a call from Karen
Far.
Buffard, yes. And Karen and I met by being on the opposite sides of a hotly contested litigation for 3 years. And she told me what you had told me, that gee, I did, why am I forgetting names here? Rick, the chairman of the planning board. Rick Chalman. Must have some connection with the Moffett, the historic home on Market Street with the William Whipple. That he has 4 ready to plant
Oh, right.
seedlings from William Whipple's horse chestnut tree.
Wow.
And thought that might be appropriate that they be planted on Fort Tree Island. And asked that it come before the committee. So you may know more about it than that, Dick, but that's
No, I don't. Who's ultimately behind all this?
Rick Chalman, I think. Now, whether he has something to do with Moffett Lad, is that Moffett Lad? That one?
Mhm.
Yeah, it is.
And
I don't think he does.
well, that was a name that Karen Buffard gave me.
do we know the status of these 4 saplings currently, where they're being held, if they're potted, if they're potentially in the ground or anything like that?
No, what she said was that they were ready to plant.
Okay,
There were some words to that effect.
Okay.
So,
They used to have an open garden session at that house. And they would
Right.
pot them up. We went to it a couple of years to,
Okay.
have a walk and talk about the tree and stuff. So they were potting them. Somebody was, potting them up and growing them. I don't know if that's the case with this round or not.
and William Whipple, signer of the Declaration of Independence, purportedly planted the horse chestnut at that location.
He brought it,
Wow.
he brought it from Philadelphia where he,
Oh,
I don't think they were common up here at that time.
Hmm.
oh,
Everybody that signed the declaration
Good
got a
tree.
different tree from some, I don't know who the person was, if not him, but there's
He
a
was
tree,
from Pennsylvania.
there's a tree in Exeter from. Well, that was the guy from Exeter. that signed it.
Bartlett.
Bartlett signed
Those
it.
are linden trees.
Right. He's got one in down in Exeter, so there are, and there's one more in New Hampshire.
Stephen Thornton, but I don't know where his tree is or what he chose.
So there's 3 trees in New Hampshire that should be that old.
wow, so this meeting is
Sorry.
the price of it.
There's our.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, is Fort Tree Island a good place for a chestnut tree with all the salt and all the? Or are there better places? Because those become very big trees, right?
If these are,
I like big trees.
these are what I'm thinking they are, they're, 2 feet tall and in a pot as big as a coffee can. So I would check into them first and see.
Sure. Yeah.
But it was suggested to be.
Put them somewhere and nurse them
100
for a
might be
while.
appropriate.
before we-
Yeah.
Sure.
Trying to find a
So
plot. for
if that's not the location, we could find another location.
Yeah, and
Would Prescott Park be a good location? I'm just thinking off the top of my head, not a good location.
I don't know the status of that. 'Cause there's been this project in flux for a long time about redoing Prescott Park.
Mhm.
So if we I personally would probably avoid, I don't plan on planting anything in there until I know certain
What's
plans are
happening, yeah.
finalized or whatever the case is, so.
Right.
But I absolutely like your idea, like we can probably find other locations in other city-owned properties like parks to throw
Right.
these trees, for sure.
Maybe where all those ashes are coming down in
Haven,
Haven.
yeah. Yeah,
That would be a good spot.
That would be a good spot. And that's just such a noble.
yeah, I agree. I can check on the status of these trees and see what current state they're in. And then AJ did bring up a good point. We should probably let them maybe mature a little bit further and then consider planting them in a park, just because if they were going to say, like, if that was a tree going to someone's private house, there are more, like, there's more consistent care or just you're able to maintain it more thoroughly. We're here during business hours and people come and go out of parks. So certainly once they get a little bit bigger, but I have no problem checking in on the status of these trees and seeing where they're at. And
Give us a report, but next meeting.
yeah, I can double back on this for August.
It's a historic tree.
Well,
Yeah,
it's just,
I'm-
I was thinking that would be
Yeah.
even like every couple of years might be a nice
Yeah,
collaboration with them or any of the older houses or historic museums that have some of these older trees that we can start
absolutely.
replanting their seedlings.
Yeah.
I think that would be.
The other thought that I had too was, so operationally, if Public Works is to do these plantings, ideally it would be during our typical planting season, just because we have all of our resources in order, our staff is ready to go, geared toward planting. Obviously, we can do it off season in, say, fall, but just for my
Sanity.
sanity and just, just to keep everything very clean, at least on our side of things. That would be my only request. And I love the idea. We can even make that our dedication tree for next year's Arbor Day. I think that we're all depending on the state of these trees, of course, but I do love the idea and would be very happy to do something like this.
Do we have a lot of horse chestnuts in Portsmouth?
There's one right in front of the Langdon House that's fairly new and it has taken off. It's right
Uh-huh.
by the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful.
I think they're.
I'd say
like,
about a
I was
dozen.
gonna say Runlet
Yeah,
Bay has
I was
it.
gonna say, it's not,
About a dozen.
there are some good specimens across the city, but I'm not too sure on numbers.
Great.
Okay. So we should,
I'll talk to one or two of you and see if whoever I can
Okay.
contact over there and
Okay.
I'll stop by.
we had an update on the beech leaf disease, and other threats. Do we have any information on that?
I can talk about it briefly if
Oh,
you want, but basically it's hitting beech trees. It's all over southern New Hampshire now. We had it in one of our forests. It was Bear Brook State Park. They thought it was, a rare occurrence, and they started looking for it. And as soon as you start surveying, you're gonna see it all over the place. So the leaves themselves, people have described it as piano keys. Some people say it looks like camouflage, but one section within the veins of the leaf will be dark, the next one will be light, the next one will be dark. So that's where you get the sort of piano key look out of it. It's essentially, a little nematode. It's a worm that's living in the soil and in the leaves and everything else. So if you take the leaf and submerge it in the water, you'll see essentially a little microscopic insect or whatever, a little worm coming out of it. Dennis, you gotta help me out on this one. So it is gonna cause defoliation with them. And it's gonna cause dieback. We just don't know the timing of the time frame of how that's gonna hit it here. The best thing that we have going for us is cold weather temperatures. But they're just not sure what's going on. So we actually dug up trees here in Portsmouth from our place, brought them up to Bear Brook. And the Forest Service is messing around with trying to figure out how we're spreading it. Whether it's being spread by insects or whatever else, or whether, staff, loggers, whoever, spreading it in mud and, machinery and all that kind of stuff. So they're actually putting mud on their boots from trees that they know are infected and walking around little young trees to see if they can infect them. It's kind of a weird science experiment, but we try to help out with it. So they're trying to figure out what the spread of it is. Right now, there's no known chemical control for it.
Mhm.
And I know some people are experimenting with chemical controls just to see if they can use, something like we did for, hemlock woolly delgid and other stuff. That's an injected chemical in the tree that would then, be in the trees and be in the foliage. But as far as I know, nothing's been approved for it yet.
I'll volunteer my beech tree if you'd like to come and inject it. I'd hate to lose it.
Yeah, That would be a travesty. We lose, I walk by the beaches on Langdon property and I actually went in to look at the leaves because they're looking a little funky.
Yeah.
They don't seem to have what you're describing, but there's something eating some of the leaves and they look
And
sort
this,
of
this you'll
musty.
never see it. It's inside the leaf. Think of a leaf as a sandwich, so it's inside the sandwich of the leaf. And you don't see anything going on. You don't see a leaf missing. You don't, they're eating, they're tunneling inside the two sandwiches, pieces of bread of the leaf. And that's where you get that dark color and, dark coloration within the leaves.
So it's like a leaf miner.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but it's happening. Sometimes it's happening in the bud form of, the leaves when they're in bud. So then they leaf out and you're seeing that sort of dark
Mhm.
color.
I saw one on the North Shore a couple weeks ago, and the beach was the leafing was not robust. It was thin and just brittle looking and it,
Get up close to the leaf and see if you see that
Mhm.
sort of two-tone. And it's really obvious. It's, light green and almost, real dark,
Mhm.
forest kind of green color to it. And it skips around in the leaf. It's not just every other one. But it does have that sort of look, keys to it.
Do the
So-
leaves eventually become deformed and like dark and leathery? Because I don't know if that's sort of a longer progression of the leaf.
Long term, I don't know what's,
Okay.
our ones at Bear Brook were just discovered this year.
Okay.
So we're still in the short term of figuring out where this is gonna go.
So have we seen it in the seacoast yet?
Yeah. So
And in southern Maine.
They've reported it in Dover. I don't know if it's been reported here in Portsmouth or not. But Exeter, there's a few sightings, that kind of stuff. Kyle and the guys, going around looking for it right now.
So we hit Copper Beach as well as.
Yeah, we'll get to
American Beach,
European beaches as well.
What do I have, Michael?
European Copper Beach,
With purple leaf, it's a European beach.
the one on Austin Street, that's just dying of old age,
Yeah.
in front of Beck's house.
Any old business?
I have two things. One is check badges.
Peter's got that.
Oh, that's new
Nice
business.
action item right there.
Top.
And a little hat.
I never thought of it. Orange is my color.
Shirts, those special shirts.
I did send, we talked about doing a posting, an extra posting on the ash trees, the ones that are going down to sort of as an educational tool. So I just took a whack at it and sent out a draft to Max and Dennis. Maybe you. And so the feedback, and I appreciate your feedback. Dennis was basically that, Dennis, you want to share what you were telling me to kind of, we can tell Max because he's ultimately going
Yeah.
to end up passing this on to communications.
So it's not a wood borer.
Mm,
So it affects the cambium, the layer between the wood and the bark. And that's where it stays. So it's not actually a wood boring insect. So just take that out.
yeah, absolutely.
So do we need, so that Max loved the idea and thought it
Yeah,
would
no,
cause him less grief in the long run.
I
with-
absolutely, yep, that's,
talking.
again, I absolutely think it's a valuable thing to do and have that information out to Portsmouth residents. Yeah, we'll have to design something and we can, if we're not already moving forward with something, I can just bring some kind of mock-up to the committee next month. But ultimately, I think we should move a little bit quicker on it.
I do too.
Right. And the other thought that I had when talking to Jeff Boucher, who is our signs person over at Public Works, is that I want to start considering reusable metal removal notices. Because we're putting paper and plastic just
Yeah.
all the time and it just feels a little. So anyway, we've been talking about that as well. So it'll be pretty much the same form, maybe a little bit of reflective material on there. So it grabs people's attention more because that pale green kind of blends in with, the environment of a tree. So.
Mhm.
Put a QR code on it too, to have them linked to the
To
Yeah.
the
site. And that
Yeah.
way, if there's anything specific, they can be in.
Yeah,
here.
Love that.
yeah, absolutely.
Great.
So is that what you're just talking about?
Yeah, so is that the,
That's online right now.
yeah. Yeah, June 14th, there was a Stephanie had published something to the Department of Public Works website, just as another sort of way to get in front of people, but
Mhm.
we can take information from that and utilize it in
Put
the.
it in the
in the
newsletter.
public
Yeah.
listing.
Yeah, can we put it, yeah. put it in the
Newsletter.
Newsletter.
Yeah, I don't, who is that Steph?
Monty would do that.
Okay,
Just you can reach out to Stephanie. She works directly
Okay.
with Monty.
yeah, absolutely.
And while we're talking about this, we all like the wording of the notice of the tree being, what is that, cut down, or how, I've struggled with that whole wording of that.
Removed? What's
Yeah,
the-
or
Yeah,
the posting of it. I don't know, so something about it that just seemed sort of a fait accompli before.
Hmm.
That's the tone I got, but that was probably just me. I don't know. I'll revisit that and get
Okay.
back to you.
I think if it's too innocuous, people will not respond.
Mhm.
That's
If
true.
people- I
It has
think-
to
I
be.
think
That's
the
true.
more alarming it's, the
It's
more
urgent,
likely
so
it
it's
is that they'll-
urgency.
They'll come.
This will be removed.
You're right.
Yeah.
Peter. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I won't get back to you. Okay, thank you.
Any other old business?
I'd like to just plug, this month is National Parks and Recreation Week, a month.
Month.
So it's something that the city council, the mayor did a nice acknowledgement proclamation of all the efforts that not only the rec department does, but Max's crew and Corin's crew do relative to maintaining the parks and the values associated that provides to the residents. So I just wanted to say it again so that the Ethernet can. the
Right.
ether can hear it.
Because we do have a good amount of green space and park space. We could always have more, but
That's right.
it is maintained immaculately in our town.
It is,
Mhm.
it is.
It's true. That's why I was very curious when I went to Ruth Street and saw this lot, because every lot to me is a park. Because it's a holy mess there, but I was just wondering, more curious about what other opportunities, but enough, but anyway.
Drainage treatment, you know.
Well, that's the time for a rain garden, right? An example.
Or
Habitat,
great.
Peter, habitat.
It's definitely habitat happening, in that lot, no question.
I can hear Corin already saying, well, we have the staff to maintain what we have now. So adding more to it.
Oh,
We don't have the staff that.
Sorry, yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Maintain what we have
Yes, thank you, yes.
I just had to say that,
No,
because I'm
yeah.
always looking for more green space and
Green space is fine. Just
just
unmaintained.
unmaintained. green
Unmaintained.
space. I know your stick.
Okay, any new business?
Is the Siberian elm?
Yeah, I've received several calls between meetings here and I try to tell them to call Peter Lockman, but it doesn't seem to do any good. But anyway, the Powder House on Islington Street. Ralph DiBernardo was the resident who called me in. He said that the branches are scouring the expensive cedar shake roof. And so he's cut back. And 828 Woodbury, a woman named Bronson, she used to be on this committee years ago. Remember her?
No.
It's a name.
Anyway, did you receive that?
I've spoken with her and it was like a 20-minute long conversation. It was very good. I liked it a lot.
She's not necessarily easy to please.
You know what? I ended that call thinking it went really well. So hopefully that's true.
Okay, and then the tree in front of almost in front of Starbucks on Congress Street.
Yeah.
It should be removed because it's
Yes.
so.
Yeah. So a few other trees in the area, the London plane trees, those sort of looked like they were deceased as well. Is that some kind of maple in front of the Starbucks? I'm trying to remember.
No, I think it's a.
Is that a
sycamore?
Oh, it is, okay. Well, anyway, so many of the other trees have bounced back, not as vigorous as they once appeared, but that one tree has been on my radar and I don't know what's taking so long, but yes, that is a removal in waiting.
Is that the location, Dick, where that tree has been replaced a couple times?
It is.
I wonder if there's some problem with the dirt that would need to be addressed.
Every past planting we've done over about the 4 years that I've been here, we've been vectoring out the soil and then replacing it. And that Osage orange that I talked about at Fleet, done the same way. There are two ginkgo and a sweet gum, I believe, at the Memorial Bridge parking lot that we did the same thing to, and those are doing really well. So,
Maybe that's what needs there.
so yeah, we will, and we just, as luck would have it, we porous paved that trees site last October, and of course it dies this year. So anyway, but yeah, we absolutely have intention of removing it and replanting it. And we will do whatever we can to the soil as well and make it more habitable.
Okay, lastly, there's a very large dead Siberian elm on Middle Road.
Yes,
You know that one?
yes,
Is that a city tree?
I have to double check. I'm not sure.
Where's that?
Across from the church, there's a church across the street there
Oh, okay.
on Middle,
Hmm.
like Middle and
Spinney in that area?
No, Sweat.
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
closer to
oh,
Sweat, closer to Junkins.
Oh, so. Junkins or?
No.
Sorry, Peverly.
Peverly.
Sorry, Peverly. Yes.
Up that edge. Okay, yeah.
It's a massive tree.
It is a massive.
We've lost a number of big trees along that corridor. Which is sad, but unfortunate.
Mhm.
Any other new business?
Well, Max, thank you for being so responsive. I think that is so important and you're on that. And
Absolutely.
again, your mother really was
Yeah.
great.
Let the city manager know.
Okay, I will. What, after I get my badge? No.
He's responsive.
Oh, boy.
You?
I just wanted to mention that the American chestnut in front of Michael's mom's house has got chestnut blight and it's gonna be removed today. So if you want to see this tree one last time, this would be a good time to take a look at it. It's been a beautiful, beautiful tree for a number of years, and I'm really sad that it finally got.
Where's
chestnut
this?
blight.
In
Right
front of
at
my
the
mother's
corner.
house.
Oh,
But AJ's offered to. Mill something out of it. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
nice.
Get some cutting boards.
Okay, there's no other new, or Mike,
I'm taking it. Yeah.
you have some new business?
I was wondering if there's an official explanation of what happened to our fruit tree. Throughout apples, peaches, there's no fruit on any of our
Yeah,
trees.
frost.
Yeah.
Oh, was that February frost?
May.
Yeah.
The frost, that
Uh-huh.
last
May frost.
little bit of frost that we had on the
Yep.
17th or whatever. Some of them, some of the peach trees and that kind of
Uh-huh.
stuff got hit by a frost back in February. I lost my blossoms, not a frost, but a really cold night that we had in February. We had like 3 cold days in February, so I lost blossoms, I checked my buds and I lost the blossoms then. We had the frost on May 15th or 17th, or
Uh-huh.
whatever it was. So I've got 4 peach trees. I got 1 peach. On
Yeah,
4
none,
trees, so.
none.
Yeah,
And
it's a statewide issue.
Right. And the same thing sort of happened with forsythia. There was some bloomed, some didn't. It was a low because, and I was told because of the deep cold in February.
Well, I'm glad none of our livelihoods depend on fruit because that place is you called numbers and it was on NPR, I think, and they just have nothing. I mean, they get 1 crop a year and this year they get 0.
Wonder if they can make cider out
I
of
was
it.
just gonna say, it's gonna
Oh,
be an
I-
expensive cider. It's gonna be an expensive
There's no fruit
cider.
itself. I have 1 peach. It's this big.
Well, peaches in New England are
If-
kind of.
if-
hot
if
then.
the bush-
Even apples, even apples.
Ah,
push
New
anyways,
England
yeah.
can be awesome.
What?
Oh, yeah. It's really good peaches.
Well, there's 5 of them. I mean, they're so.
They're really good.
It's just
stuff.
not,
Right.
I come from peach country and it's just like different, so different.
But I can say blueberries are going like crazy. this year.
They are.
Ah,
They are.
Interesting. I
That's
don't know
good.
why or how or whatever else, but even the wild blueberries are going like crazy.
yeah, I've noticed that too.
I feel like it was a good strawberry season too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
strawberries are
well,
terrible.
no new or old business, I forget what I say, do I?
Dick says we don't have to.
But
You just all walk out of the room, Peter.
you're running, very dramatic.
Yeah,
line.
oh, I know, Dick said we don't need to have a motion to adjourn,
Oh,
so.
okay.
Okay.
Whatever Dick thinks.
Yeah, but I was gonna swing by Mike's house.
Back to
Mike's
reality.
house.
today.
I wanted to see what the chestnut looks like as far as what we can, get a piece out of it.
On your way on.
And I've got 3
10th Street.
grandchildren.
We still recording?
Oh,
Yeah, we're still recording.
going-
Hold on.
Okay,